here. In a literary history that you can go back to Thomas More's Utopia, and New Atlantis to that, and Robinson Crusoe is another one of those. And in Robinson Crusoe, it basically starts off as a slave trader, and his parents, first of all, don't want him to go to sea if you haven't read the book. I would recommend people just read the book because it's not that long. You can read it in like one day, and it's a good book. And his parents don't want him to go to sea, right? And he breaks their wishes. He goes against them. He becomes a slave trader. Then he gets captured by Ottomans, and then he becomes a slave, and he has to like buy his freedom. I think he escapes. He gets captured and turned into a slave, I think, twice in the book. But he gets out of it, and then he goes home, and he's thankful to be home. But then he goes back out again, and then that's when he gets into a storm, and he gets stranded on this island. And so this is something that did you see the Martian? Well,
it's Robinson Crusoe on Mars.
Robinson Crusoe on Mars is already there's a movie of that already before the Martian.
It's a very classic, like, most of science fiction comes out of this thing. It's this whole idea, right? And, I mean, I think back onto, like, this roommate I had in college, and we were arguing about, like, what the point of art was, and he said that it was to envision the future so that it could be made, and like he was just mostly talking about like how iPads exist in like 2001: A Space Odyssey, and then they like exist later. So that's basically this sort of model of literature, though, which is like the creation of a sort of a utopia, right? Of like a utopia, or you know, to inspire like change or production in the real world, is what he was saying the purpose of art was.
Yeah, I mean, when Robinson Crusoe, this is like, I just bring up The Martian because this is why, actually, I really hated that movie, or I just didn't like it, because in Robinson Crusoe, there's a very kind of connected, there's a metaphor in the book about, because he disobeyed his parents, he is, you know, he thinks that he's being punished for that by God, and that's what the situation is that he's stranded on this island, as punishment for basically disobeying his parents, committing a sin. And so this is his situation where throughout the book he's also engaging in kind of a lot of contemplation and spiritual development. And so the whole thing about like him building up the island and like building all these cool structures and everything is that is connected into a concept of spiritual development too that is happening concurrently.
I mean, it's also kind of like Paradise Lost, though, right? In the sense of like he's like the Lucifer figure who's like cast out from like his father's affection, and so he has to like, you know, make a paradise out of hell.
It is really, you know, it's kind of a deeper concept than you think. I mean, it gets turned into like Disney or whatever, or it's a book, right? Swiss Family Robinson, and then I've only seen the movie of it. But you know, you know, there's a fun adventure aspect of it, but then there's also kind of a deeper element of it of, you know, psychological, spiritual development, subjective development that is going along with the physical development of the island. And this is one thing that was missing from The Martian. I mean, you know, not that The Martian matters, but just as an aside, why I didn't like it is because it dropped that part completely. And that it was really, you know, you know,
you could say that that's like really the change to neoliberalism, though, right? Where it's all about the process, and there's like there's no internality to the subjects creating these processes anymore.
So yeah, that's a really, you know, good way to look at it, because this is the key to Robinson Crusoe, and this is also like the whole British Empire is that even though that's kind of mistaken, and you get the idea of like we're going to build an empire that also is like an empire of knowledge, based on knowledge. It's very much that, you know, you're not only improving the world, but you're also improving, you know, yourself at the time. Processes are fundamentally true.
Yeah.
But that's not how we look at it anymore. I guess that you could say that's actually the legacy of utilitarianism in kind of a way.
It's like just severing the kind of spiritual aspect of economic development from just practice.
Yeah, absolutely. Now that I think about that, that is what ended happening. And the thing about Robinson Crusoe also not only for the building of the economic theory, but especially the pedagogy of economics. And it's the Robinson Crusoe metaphor. And, that's how it's basically taught, and it was taught to me, is that you start off with this idea of Robinson Crusoe on an island and it's limited resources and it's isolated after that.
Yeah.
And you are setting it all up so that you are modeling his decisions, and these are the laws of economics, what we call price theory, or the science of decision making or behavior. And so you're modeling his decision making with these utility functions, right? And so when we're talking about the classical behavior we mentioned before about the development of agricultural industry and such luxuries in that, is that is all based on a physical economic gender hierarchy of what people need and what they're trying to do. Is that, like, what that guy's Maslow hierarchy, I guess it's kind of similar to that. Yeah, but what happens, especially in the later 19th century, is that all this things like utilitarianism becomes a subjective theory of value where it's based on whatever you want, what you want, and that's completely self-justifying. That's enough. The theory doesn't care beyond that about why you want it or whether or not your wants are valid or justified. And this is how the rational actor in economics comes about. And that is everyone is a rational actor, and not the sense that they have. I hate the rationalists, the less wrong people, people, NRX people and stuff who talk about reason because they're so stupid about it. But reason in this sense, we talk about rational actor, it doesn't have anything to do with the content of what people want, what they're